So I want to talk a bit about a video that's went quasi-viral. It's a few months old, but this kind of encompasses other areas I want to discuss. So basically, there was a young woman, and she was attending a Trump event somewhere well, it was in San Jose, California. It looked like a hotel or something like that. Not sure what the precise event was, whether it was a speaking event or a rally or whatever it was. Um, and basically, there's a crowd of anti-Trump protesters outside now. That's not exactly surprising. Um, but there's several video footage links to this, several videos, I should say, and I've just watched one that shows a whole kind of angle now. Basically, these people are really wound up or angry. Obviously, they don't like Trump, but this girl, young woman, they're kind of focusing on her. She's clearly a Trump supporter. She's going into the hotel. People say she brought it on herself. Now, on some level, she was playing it up a little bit, but, and this is a very big but, as far as I'm concerned, in a situation of a group or a mob of people versus one person, my sympathies will always be in the side of the one person because I take that to be scumbag behavior. Um, to gang up on one person in that way, and it got pretty ugly. They threw eggs at her. They kind of had her in a corner. It looked pretty tense. Um, and then eventually the security let her into the hotel. There were people kind of in the background saying, some were saying, "Oh, she's egging it on." Some were saying, "Bring her in." She did look initially like she was egging it on to some extent, but I still think there's zero excuse for the way this mob was behaving. And frankly, shame on anyone who tries to defend them. In the end of the day, if you have that sort of situation, it doesn't matter what way she was behaving. You cannot justify a group of people against one person, you know? Now, just to be clear here, I am not a Trump supporter. I think he's a disastrous candidate, and I think he is, well, I think he's a completely appalling candidate. I'm not a Trump supporter, but as a centrist, I call out the far left and the far right. So, firstly, this group of people, yes, they have a right to protest peacefully. It wasn't a particularly peaceful protest. Secondly, this is San Jose, right? It's an American city. Now, why wave the Mexican flag? If you're Mexican American and you're angry about some of the things that Trump has said, which is understandable, fine, wave the American flag and protest about it. But I think that is a provocative and disrespectful act, waving the flag of another country when you're in the United States. And I apply that logic anywhere in the world. I feel resentful if there are people protesting about the UK and they're waving the flag of their home nation and, whinging about something going on in this country. It has happened a few times. I think that is disrespectful. When in Rome, do as you Romans do. In other words, if you're in the United States of America, the First Amendment guarantees freedom of expression. So you've got a right to protest. But I think it is provocative and disrespectful waving a Mexican flag. Wave a Mexican flag if you're in Mexico, not in the US. And I don't think that's a racist statement. I think it's just common sense. Um, so basically, I have zero sympathy for the way they were behaving. And what I find quite shocking is that there are people defending it, saying like she egged it on and so on. Um, in all likelihood, if I spoke to this woman, I would agree with her on almost nothing. Okay, she's a Trump supporter. I think Trump's a disaster. But that isn't the point. You have to have a certain set of standards about how how to behave, basically. Um, and this polarizing atmosphere, which Donald Trump is partly responsible for, but frankly, the hard left are also responsible for this very polarizing atmosphere that is developing in the United States right now. And on some level, it's developing in other Western countries as well. But there is a deep intolerance among so called progressives. And I can't say I know the politics of each and every one in that rally, but progressives always make excuses for it. And I've just seen another video whereby, you know, social justice warriors, progressives, left wingers, whatever term is most appropriate, were basically blocking a university campus, the doorway. I don't know which university it was, but Milo Yiannopoulos, forget the guy's name, but he's well known right wing gay blogger. Anyway, he was speaking at an event, and a group of feminists and left wingers didn't like that, so they decided to block the doorway to anyone getting in. Now, I just think that is obnoxious in the extreme. As soon as you try to silence someone else's freedom of expression, as soon as you use degrading tactics, you lose the argument. It doesn't matter what argument you have. As soon as you take that approach, you lose the argument. Put it this way, there are people I detest, okay? They really grind me up the wrong way, they piss me right off. But I know full well if I was to use certain, like if I was to approach that in a certain way, if I joined a group of people to gang up on them and like beat them up or egg them or something, then I would lose a moral argument. Okay, so as a centrist, I am saying that that sort of hard left or neoliberal behavior is disgusting. And for people who love to shout about bullying, they do a lot of bullying of their own. No matter what they thought of what that woman was doing, whatever her t-shirt said, and even if she was initially playing up a little bit, their behavior was disgusting. It was cowardly, it was despicable. Rounding up on someone, getting them in the corner. If they don't like her, move on. Go and have the protest somewhere else. I don't see why it's always necessary to gang up on people and always necessary to have this confrontation. And it does seem to be something that we lose sight of when we talk about free expression. Free expression shouldn't mean always getting into confrontation. What is wrong with having your opinion and that's it? Why always get into a confrontation situation? It seems to be something that's very, very commonplace in the United States, and like I say, does it can be seen here to some extent. I would say not quite as much. In Britain, the situation tends to be a bit more. People have their protests, the other side has their protests. There's slightly less direct confrontation, but that's not across the board. You do get it in universities, and believe me, we get that far left social justice warrior intolerance in our universities just as much, and it pisses me right off. People say, "Why don't you go back to university?" That's one of the main reasons. I'm a centrist, but that wouldn't be enough to please them. If you take any view that's marginally different, then they will shout you down. They will literally try and take away your freedom of expression, and I think it's disgusting. If your whole argument comes down to actually trying to block other people having an opinion in that way, then as far as I'm concerned, you lose the argument. Full stop. So anyway, let me know what you think. Um, This video, by the way, isn't about the rights and wrongs of Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton. That's not the angle I'm taking with this. I'm just talking about the behavior of certain protesters. Now, Trump supporters aren't entirely innocent themselves. Early on in this presidential cycle, there was some disgraceful behavior at Trump rallies, and the candidate himself has inflamed the situation. I don't have much personal sympathy for Donald Trump. However, um, two wrongs don't make a right. And it's wrong whether it be neoliberals attacking Trump supporters or Trump supporters attacking liberals or left wingers. It's wrong both ways. Because what I would say to both sides is just chill out. Have your opinion, but it's not necessary to get in someone else's face. I think this is something that the United States doesn't need right now. And in point of fact, the Western world doesn't need right now. I can't see the situation developing here. Our politics right now is the situation here is the Labour Party is facing internal divisions and the Tories are sort of getting on with it. But, definitely there is a sort of intolerance in universities with very intolerant far left students. And yeah, it pisses me off. Incidentally, Black Lives Matter is starting to move here, which concerns me because I believe it's a very dubious, hypocritical, and divisive organisation. Let me know your thoughts on this particular incident. Maybe some people might know more details than I don't. But to be quite honest, regardless of what she may have said or done, nothing justifies, even if she'd shouted out a racist slur, nothing justifies a mob versus one person. It just doesn't. Just doesn't. So to the men in that group, your cards, complete cards. Let me know your thoughts on this particular situation. Thanks for watching.